Hello, this is our first session of end of course review. We are going to go through our first three modules this year: Reconstruction, Immigration, Industrialization, and Urbanization. So the first era that we studied was the Reconstruction era of 1865 to 1877. Key ideas to remember is that at the end of the Civil War, the North had won the war, so we're going to do some things to change the society and the systems in the South. The first and three biggest things to remember are these three amendments that are passed at the end of the Civil War. The 13th to be to free the slaves, the 14th to provide equal protection or equal rights under the Constitution, and the 15th Amendment, which gives freedmen the suffrage, or African American males the right to vote. So those three amendments are extremely key to remember. During this 12-year period, it's also important to see that we had troops that had fought in the Civil War that were down in the South enforcing these laws. A couple of other groups that we hear a lot about and need to remember are carpetbaggers, are people that moved from north to south in order to get elected to government power positions and do some things in the South that the North wanted. And then scalawags are Southerners who change party allegiances and do some things with the Republican Party that the Democratic Party in the South does not like. The other side of this argument, or piece to remember, is that the systems of the South are completely and totally destroyed after the Civil War. Political, economic, and social systems. With slavery being banned being the biggest one, this is a huge change to their system, and it is a shock. One of the key ideas that we need to try to remember is this refusal to change their racist ways in the South. We see groups like the KKK, who are white supremacists. They're intolerant of everybody who isn't them. That includes African Americans especially, but Catholics, immigrants, Jews, anybody that's basically not a Protestant white person. When the troops leave, we see this immediate reinstitution of the old ways, segregationist type of things that go on, the systems of sharecropping and tenant farming, and then fancy word of disenfranchisement. Usually we call these just voting restrictions, use of poll tax, literacy test, grandfather clause in order to restrict African Americans from voting, get them out of the polling places. They don't have their political powers. On the social side, we see Jim Crow laws, and so this is where we see this institutionalized racial segregation. Not going to play the video for you. You can look at the slides on your own and see this, but the key case that establishes this legal segregation for all the Jim Crow laws and everything else is this Plessy v. Ferguson. It establishes the doctrine of separate but equal and allows segregationist practices to occur. The other side of this early period that we studied is dealing with Native Americans, and so the big things that we need to remember is that the first goal was to make them assimilate into white European culture, or white European American culture, make them an Americanized, give up their old ways and heritage. They did not like to do this, and they felt like their culture was being lost, and so we see a lot of violence back and forth during this early time period. One of the things that we see created is this reservation system. We put them onto lands that are theirs, and they're supposed to be able to control that a little bit through there. Special interest group that we mentioned, we like to learn these and look at these from time to time, is AIM, the American Indian Movement. We will hear them later on in the 60s, 70s, and 80s fighting for some of the civil rights for Native Americans. Next big shift up into the late 1800s, early 1900s time period, the Industrial Revolution. It's extremely important for us to remember the causes of this. The fact that our country had lots of natural resources, iron ore, coal, water to move things. We have tons of them here, lumber. Labor supply, being immigrants or people that are able to work and willing to work. Innovation or invention, we talk about the ingenuity of the Wright brothers. We talk about Thomas Edison and all of these people developing new systems, new technologies for us to work with. Capital investment, being willing to risk and put money into this system and doing things, is extremely important. But then the most important in terms of what we kind of studied was these laissez-faire policies by the government that allow business to flourish. Okay, if we kind of look down here at these couple of tabs that I've got for laissez-faire, for the business side, it is a benefit because they get to set the conditions of work. They get to decide what the wages are, how many hours you're going to work, and what the safety conditions are. Again, business is trying to make a profit, so the more control they have here, the better it is for them. On the worker side, I always try to get you guys to remember that it is laissez-faire, and so I term it being less fair to workers. There is no minimum wage standard, so if they want to change your working rate from a nickel a day to a penny a day, they can do that. There is no regulation from the government in terms of overtime hours, safety regulations, anything. All right? Some of you will remember that we did the effects of industrialization as a toe-tapping cheerleading cheer, understanding that the things that grew out of it, growth of cities, urbanization, growth of unions or workers' rights movement, melting pot, immigrants coming in and changing and developing what is American culture and taking some of their things but adding it to our own. Ag modernization, all of the new farm equipment, farm techniques and things which allow more food to be grown from less farmers. Massive corporation growth in the big businesses and the factories and manufacturing that we become known as a country. And then goods we got is just the fact that we get a lot of products. This is this first installment of consumerism in America, and you just studied that with the 1950s as well, where it's about buying goods from factories. Okay, so one of the big keys with those effects of industrialization is the unionization movement. And this is workers that unite and come together in order to fight against the governmental policies or lack of policies and the systems that the business owners put in place. General demands, the most important demands to understand that they fight for is that they want higher and controlled wages. They want safer working conditions, and they want better hours, limiting work hours. This is one we missed a bunch on the most recent SCA. Their slogan becomes 8 hours for work, 8 hours for play, 8 hours for sleep. Okay? So key is those three broad demands. Then different groups and some of them, these unions, labor organizations, ask for different demands. So some of them will focus on child labor. Some of them will focus on equal work for equal pay, mostly a women's issue. And then safe and appropriate treatment, again, dependent on child or women's issues and some of those things. So those are unique or special demands that only certain unions had. The first three are general across the board. They use several different tactics, and I'm not going to go through all of these. You can read them and look at them on your own. The understanding that the strike is the most powerful, but it is also the last resort. The workers do not want to go on strike because they lose their pay during those times. Okay? But it is a very powerful tool. They will go through this step-by-step process usually before they strike, trying to work with each one of these levels. The first step is almost always a collective bargaining or negotiating. You sit down with the management as a worker and you offer up ideas and try to compromise and come to a solution. Okay? Then you would work through those other steps dependent on what goes on with those early negotiations. But understand again, lots of different tactics. It is not always just strike. Into modules 3 and 4, urbanization and immigration being a couple of these effects and somewhat causes of industrialization too. These get overlapped a little bit here and there. When we look at urbanization, the key to remember is urban versus rural. Urban means city. During this time period, our country shifts, and by the 1920s, we have more people living in cities than we do in the rural areas. This is when that balance of power changes over between cities and rural or country areas. Reasons that people would move there, obviously, economic opportunity. We are always seeking out the chance to make a better life. So they're looking for jobs, and that's where the jobs are. As much as we'll see it as a listing of a problem that they don't have enough housing, it's more than what's available in the rural areas, and it's easier and cheaper. So when you arrive as an immigrant, the first place you're going to arrive into is a city, and most of the time you're going to stay there. They do allow for some of their heritage to be kept. Another important term or idea is these of enclaves. This is where we see Chinatowns or Little Italy or German village type of situations. They face a lot of corruption. The cities of the day are known for their political machines, which are terrible systems of government that use graft, political power, all kinds of just nastiness. Okay? A response to that, and this is a preview of our progressive era movement that we'll see in the next session of slides that I do, is the Pendleton Civil Service Act. You'll want to look that up and get a little bit more detail. But basically, instead of whoever's in power being able to give out jobs as they desire to their supporters, those people wanting government jobs have to pass a test. And there are several other provisions in this law that is supposed to take away from these political machines. You have to have a skill or ability to do a job to get it. The problems of cities are similar to what we see in today's cities. Don't overthink this. They're crowded. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of disease from lack of water. You can't fight fire because of a lack of water. You don't have enough housing. The infrastructure systems are always worn down. Think we're going from horse and buggy to subways and cars and things during this time period. And then lots of crime problems there. The other idea is this immigration, and one of the things to remember is this early era right in through here of we are shifting from what we tend to think of England, Ireland, Scotland, Germany kinds of areas, northern and western, and we're going more, or we're getting more from Eastern, Southern Europe. Differences in language, differences in lives, lots of difference. So we start to see another pushback against them. The other area is Asia. Many Japanese and Chinese immigrants during this time period, and we see the first exclusionary law passed in the United States, a quota, important word to remember, in the Chinese Exclusion Act, and then the Gentleman's Agreement with Japan. Once again, they are not going to send us their poor, unskilled workers. They're only going to send us their educated, best, and brightest, or we're not going to take them. Hence the last bullet point. Generally, throughout our history, no matter what you're from, where you are, and who you are, we don't like you unless you've already been here. So immediately upon one generation of people being born here, you then, the next generation, is not welcome. We see this development of a nativist movement, a very big backlash against these new immigrants coming in from Eastern Southern Europe, from Ireland still, and whatever. And it is seen as a job competition. That slowed that idea of you're taking our jobs for those that were native and born here. Ideas and goals is this Americanization and assimilation, make them as similar to us, this melting pot. So you come together, you come here, and you become like us. Now, we also steal some things from those different cultures, and so we are a very adaptive kind of society, but we melt together and make a little bit Italian, a little bit Irish, a little bit German, and put it into all of us being together. Overall review, we're up against a little bit of time here, so I'm not going to go through these, but these are big time terms that you should know if you don't already. So I'd go through and kind of refresh, renew your ideas on this and see where you are. Not all of them were in the slides, not all of them are mentioned, obviously, because I'm trying to cover what took us about the first 9 weeks in 15 minutes. So as you look through here, once again, kind of go back, refresh your ideas, check through your notes, look through the book, look up some videos, go back to that Plessy v. Ferguson video and check it out, and then ask if you've got any questions. I hope that this is a good practice for you. There will be at least 3 more installments on these as I go through our entire year in broken down segments. Thank you and have a great day.